Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today. Also, thanks, of course, to the people who are getting interviewed today. We have MP and
Hi.
KEULE from VERTEK today. A quick introduction to us. We are the pillars where we ask the tough questions the community wants to know, but maybe too afraid to ask sometimes. All our questions are from the community and are asked with the intent to ensure we can protect investors as well as helping protocols grow and succeed. Today, we don't have a usual protocol as per se as you might know it. Today, we have VERTEK. For the people who don't know VERTEK in the audience, as the shortest of the shortest summary is VERTEK is a DEX. But all the intricacies and what it's all about in exactly, you're going to find out soon in a bit. And yeah, so we have a $100 giveaway, as you can see as well, which is going to be started with a giveaway reaction button at some point. And if we reach, I believe we said 120 audience members, I believe, we're going to do out of our own personal wallet another giveaway with 50 BUSD. So make sure to invite all your friends and share this across all platforms. And yeah, I'm going to get away now and everybody enjoy. I'm going to pass the microphone on to Mad Hatter.
Thank you, David, for the lovely intro. Gentlemen, hi, nice to have you guys here.
Yeah, it's nice to be here, man. Thank you very much for giving us the space and lending us your ears, as well as allowing us to conversate on this nice little platform here.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. It's I'm going to be looking forward to this one. It's going to be good. So yeah, hopefully you've taken your vitamins if you need to, MP, and you're ready to sit down for a little while, and then we'll let you get back to some rest.
No, it's not really much rest. Just less intensity as usual. But yeah, I got my ibuprofen, so that's okay.
Good man, stocked up, drugged up. That's what we like to hear. The good drugs, though, not the bad ones. As I can see that the doctor is in the audience, so I don't want to upset him too. Gentlemen, can you start by kind of giving us a bit of an overview as to where you guys come from, not necessarily on the planet, but where you guys, your background comes from, and how you found yourself in this space, and crucially, how you found yourselves building out VERTEK?
Okay, I think I can go first here. So about 3 to 4 years ago, I was just trading for mostly Forex as well as stocks. As I did give a little bit of advisory. I did a bit of advisory work as well. So you know how everybody says I'm not a financial advisor. Well, I kind of actually was for a period of time. But obviously in DeFi, I'm not a financial advisor. But yeah, so that was before DeFi. Actually, how I got into DeFi, I guess I could tell a funny little story here. A friend of mine. Yeah, a friend of mine. I went to a pizza party, and a friend of mine paid me in Litecoin. And then it's like, I didn't know what a blockchain was. I didn't know what the hell is this. And then he was like, "Nah, just open a Binance account." I'm like, "What's a Binance account?" And then he set one up for me. And then he used the QR code to send me like $50. And then like I think 4 or 5 days later, it went up to like 60 or something. I was like, okay, this is good. How do I get into this? And how fast can I learn everything? And that's really what got me into DeFi and blockchain technology. I watched a lot of videos as well as picked up a lot of books and read a lot of articles on how the technology is supposed to function and what its use cases and value propositions are. Then, of course, got into DeFi. At first, I was a normal investor, just like every one of you here, and was just roaming the DeFi landscape, trying to find a good protocols or look for good yield. Then I realized that I chanced upon Ames DeFi, which was one of the older Tomb Fox that is still running now, but there's a strategic pivot going on. More on that later. But when I first joined, it was in Tomb Fox season, and then I came up with a good strategic plan, or what I thought would be a good way to kind of get back to peg. And then we executed. The team kind of ran me through it, discussed with me a little bit, and then we executed it, and we did get to peg at that time. So because of that, I got brought onto the team, and then from there, made a lot of friends, KEULE included, and we ended up building out the DEX together, VERTEK, after about 6 or 7 months working together, and now we're here.
Great stuff. Thank you. KEULE, can you give me a bit of a background also?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm a former fur professional. I also have retail experience, and I actually was also self-employed as insurance consultant. So I have seen a broad variety of different jobs in my life. And I started around, let's say, September 2021 around in DeFi. I've talked with a friend and was just getting more and more interested. Was in Wonderland at first, and then I also discovered the whole Tomb Fork season, the model, everything, and was around the time NP joined Apes DeFi. I also joined as an investor, and then I have become a mod there, and for around half a year I'm also a core member.
Great. So a wealth of experience before you guys came here, and then something obviously kind of sparked a bit of an itch to get into it. And I love having an anecdote where a friend sends you a little bit of something that you really don't pay much attention to until it goes up a little bit in price, and you think, oh, okay, this is interesting, right? Not just the increase in price, of course, but the fact that, you know, you could be paid for something arbitrary and then realize actually you've got something very useful on your hands.
So I could continue on that just a little bit more, maybe about a minute. At the time, there wasn't a very quick way to send each other money in my country, at least. So that was like a very cool concept to me. It's like, dude, you got it over in like 10 seconds. Like, you don't have to wait till the banks open or that kind of stuff. It's like, no, it's okay. So, and then I was like, well, how do I get it out? And then that's how I went. Yeah, that's how I went down the rabbit hole and discovered the whole world of DeFi.
Right, and then here you are building out a DEX that, you know, its very purpose is also to have people send stuff to each other if they want to, right? Do you want to give me a little bit of an idea about what VERTEK is, to talk us through it? I know what you guys have, and the intricacies that sit behind your DEX are particularly intricate. So what I don't want to do during the conversation today is necessarily get bogged down too much in the finer details, because I think, you know, we could probably fill a 6-hour Q&A with just that, right? So I'm more interested in what it is that makes you guys unique, and what you guys think is really at the core of what you're creating and why people should be excited about that.
Okay, so I can take this one. So essentially what the VERTEK DEX is it's a DEX that is built on the Balancer V2 technology. Now, some people may know, or some people may not know what the difference is between a Balancer type DEX and a normal Uniswap fork. There are hundreds and I would dare say thousands of Uniswap forks that have come up. It's because the platform is a lot more simple. I mean, it works, right? And it's simple. You got your liquidity pools, you put in one, you get out the other, and then price does its thing, and then all of that. But the nice thing about the Balancer V2 tech, and the reason why its value propositions go way beyond that of a normal Uniswap fork, is because it allows you to customly manage your liquidity pools. And when I say that, I mean you can have up to 8 tokens in a single pool. So no longer you're 1 versus 1 in your liquidity pools. You can have up to 8 tokens, and each of them can have different ratios. So you can have about 10% Bitcoin, 20% ETH, 30% VERTEK, 40% something else, and then up to 8. And you can add up to 8 rewards for your this liquidity pool, and then the pool itself, as per the name Balancer, it does self-balance. So without getting too technical, what that means is that the ratios will always be the same, sort of. That's internal accounting and all of that.
I'm certainly going to circle back to these LPs and the fact that you can have exposure to more than one token at any given time in them, and we're going to deep dive into that. I think some people, from some of the Q&As that I've heard, it gets a little lost on what that means, but this is a particularly unique feature that you guys have. And the idea that you can allow for, in a single LP pool, exposure to multiple, up to 8 tokens, you said, is huge for you guys, right?
Yes, correct. That's exactly right. I think that was one of the main value propositions when the technology was built out originally, of course, by Bell, and then when adapted by us, that's also what we're trying to go for. Now, I'd like to say here that the reason why we are on the Binance Smart Chain, obviously, is because there is a market gap here on BSC. There isn't another Balancer type DEX here. In fact, there's not even a lot of Balancer V2 type of DEXs in total on all chains. So they're few and far between, and right now we're pretty much the only ones on BSC who have the V voting escrow system integrator, as well as like the cross-chain bridge and all of that. We can get to that later, but yeah, essentially there was a market gap that needed to be filled on BSC, and that's why we chose BSC as the chain, our main chain. However, we are thinking of a strategic pivot, of course, to go cross-chain to Arbitrum in particular, because it seems that a lot of DeFi capital is flowing to there recently, and we do want to capture a portion of that market share. So there is that. And then circling back to the original, statement about the DEX, is that not just is it a Balancer V2 fork, right? But we've also added in the V curve system. So if you guys know, like a curve and Aave, they're pretty much the OGs of all DeFi, right? And they, like almost all of the capital that is in DeFi is locked up in there. But they have this V curve system, which is like a voting escrow, which allows you to direct emissions, and we have that on VERTEK as well. Ours is called VERTEK. What it does is it allows people, the market, to actually decide where the emissions for the DEX go. So unlike a traditional Uniswap fork, where the DEX will say, okay, this pool gets this much, that pool gets that much, the other pool gets that much. This one, you form the main liquidity, which is VERTEK BNB, get into the Volta, lock your position, and then with that you get VERTEK. When you get VERTEK, you can vote for emissions. So you get to decide which pools are the ones that are getting more emissions, or which ones are getting less. And then on top of that whole system, there's obviously bribes and all that. We can get to that later on. But essentially, the idea behind the VERTEK system is that it's a decentralized way to direct emissions, and it's completely market driven to the core. We do not manipulate this at all. Like, we can't set emissions to anything. It's just it's just what the market decides. So, for example, if the fear and greed index is very, very red, everybody's fearful, everybody wants to get into stables, right? Then you just vote for the stablecoin pools, and you get into and you farm the stablecoin pools, no problem. Then when everybody is like, okay, like recently there's a pump on Bitcoin and blue chips, all that, and it's actually happened. The proof of concept is real. It's happened on our DEX. The blue chip pools, or the pools with Bitcoin and ETH and BNB in it have increased in emissions because people start voting for them because they want to get in and provide liquidity that way. Yeah. So it's the entire concept is built decentrally, right down to its core, with emissions especially.
Great. And one of the things I've heard you mention in some of your AMAs is that you want to really bring everything that people can expect from a centralized exchange into DeFi, right, and into your DEX. And that's really your ultimate aim. Would you say that's your main selling point? And if it isn't, what would you say is? And also, just to expand on that, I personally think the word revolutionary is overused in my experience. So what do you guys think would set you apart as revolutionary in this space with what you guys have at the moment?
Okay, so I'll answer the first part first, which is what I think is the main value proposition, or what the main vision for VERTEK is. You're absolutely correct. What we are trying to do is become a DEX with all of the preeminent functions that a centralized exchange would offer. So a lot of capital has been flowing out of SEXs and into DEXs over the last, let's say, about half a year. And so it's a good time. It's a good time and a good move to build out a DEX with all of those functionalities integrated right on the same platform that everybody can participate in non-custodially. So nobody holds your crypto except you, and then also decentrally, which is the direction of emissions and all that. So that's really the concept we're trying to go for. And we gave ourselves the simple tagline, which is the everything DEX. So that's simple enough to understand. But yeah, that's really what we're trying to do. We've got you can yield farm if you want to yield farm, provide liquidity if you want to provide liquidity. If you are a higher skill trader, or you like to do perpetuals and futures and all that, we will have a platform that's launching, a feature on our platform that's launching soon, which will be a perpetuals trading platform. It's very similar to the PancakeSwap one. The partners that we're working with is Apollo X. They have integrated and have massive amounts of liquidity that we can leverage in order to allow people to perform their perpetual trading in a optimized manner. Then there's also the NFT marketplace, which will be coming out. You'll be able to do all your listing of NFTs, as well as your flipping of NFTs as well. So there's that. And then, of course, there's the voting escrow system, which I just mentioned before. And I would say here, though, that the Volta, that's what we call it, the voting VERTEK system is probably the best entry point for the entire ecosystem, because it is through there that you unlock basically almost all of the ways to earn yield on VERTEK. So you get not only your VERTEK ignitions, but you also get to vote. And then when you vote, you get the bribe rewards. And then when you, on a weekly basis, we call it an epoch. On an epoch basis, you get your dividends from DEX fees. So the protocol, the DEX sends back about 50% of all DEX fees back to VERTEK holders. In LP, by the way, not in single tokens. So most DEXs, if they do some kind of dividends program or profit sharing program, it's all in single tokens. But in our case, we give you back the LP. So what this means, what this means is that the LP didn't have to be sold or broken in the first place, which preserves the liquidity cliff for the DEX. And then secondly is you can instantaneously take the LPs and go to a pool that you wish and farm, or you can break it and take profit or whatever it is that you want to do. So there's that's that as well. And then sorry, just
by all means, go for it.
Yeah, so the last bit would be, recently we just released our staker, VERTEK staker. So this is a very simple concept, right? I think everybody knows. You stake VERTEK, earn another token. You can do this on a lot of exchanges as well, centralized exchanges. So if you think about like Binance or all those centralized exchanges, you can stake their native token, and then you earn a whole bunch of other tokens, right? That's the same thing you can do with VERTEK staker, except that in our case, it's decentralized. So you stake VRTK, you earn other token rewards. Then there's the lock staking, which is the Volta and the VERTEK system. So yeah, we got both of those running on. And I would say this, in the future, we are developing a lot more. We will be developing a lot more features and advantages that will be attached to the Volta or the VERTEK holders. Yeah.
There is a lot to unpack, a lot of exciting stuff to unpack, and we'll do it slowly and bit by bit so people can really kind of get their minds around what's happening. One of the first things I'm going to ask you is that, you mentioned at the top of that explanation, a lot of money is flowing from centralized exchanges into these DEXs. What kind of an added pressure does that add to you, and how much more security focused do you then need to become? And what are you doing to ensure that the security is top notch as that money does start to flow towards you?
Yeah, so obviously audits is the one that everybody is thinking about, right? And then there's the KYC and the doxing. I have been KYC'd and doxed. I believe there is a video of me on a live stream somewhere recently, actually, and yeah, so there's that. And then as far as audits go, our security cliff is basically the same as Balancer, because we sync our master branch to theirs every couple of days or about once a week ish. So for those not so technical, basically we are as vulnerable as Balancer is, and Balancer has never been exploited. So yeah, nice. I think security wise, as far as the underlying code goes, we're very, very safe, as long as we don't diverge too much from the Balancer code base, which we don't. So
great.
Yep.
And in terms of protocols that you might partner with that come in with you, do you also take a look at their security? And if you find that there might be a weak spot there, are you in a position where you'll point it out to ensure that they are as ironclad as you guys are, to make sure that people can really come to you with 100% conviction that you guys are the safest place to be?
Yeah, so I think a good indicator many times, especially for newer projects, is if for security, is if they do get quite a bit of TVL in the beginning. So that's one of the conditions that we have for having for listing somebody as a core pool or anything like that. Then also there's the fact that we have been networking quite a bit, not just myself but KEULE as well, and the rest of the team. We've been networking quite a bit for the last year or so in the DeFi space, and we do know a lot of people now, a lot of project owners, a lot of project developers and stuff like that. So through our interpersonal connections.
Your mic is cutting off. Can you repeat yourself, please?
Right. Which part was cut off? So, okay. Anyway, I'll just repeat that. So through the interpersonal connections that we've made through the DeFi space in, let's say, the last year, we know all the good people, basically, or most of the good people. And obviously we know those who have exited the DeFi space disgracefully as well. But yeah, I think that's a good thing to note as well, is that we the people that we partner with, we do tend to know them on a personal basis just because we've been around the space for quite a while.
Okay, great. I mean, I know, as you know, we had a Q&A here with Collective Finance as well, and they are very hot on making sure that their network is one that they trust. So, you know, and I know that you guys work with them, and it's nice to hear that ethos trickles into this as well. I think it's important, as you say, to have people that you know and trust. And, you know, you're also going to be introduced to the bad actors. And actually, that's also very helpful because you can weed them out and ensure that you don't work with them, you know, to really make sure that your users are able to trust you 100%.
Yep.
When you were building this out, who did you build it out with in mind as having your target customer base? And did you pull from any of your previous experience? I mean, well, what did you pull from your previous experiences? What kind of successes and failures did you guys pull from to make sure that the failures didn't trickle into this, and the successes you could build on?
Okay, so this goes back to what I was talking about earlier about the vision. So the kind of, it's not just a customer base. I think the idea of having the everything DEX is that there is something for every type of DeFi trader. A lot of the yield farming that you can do on VERTEK is as close to zero knowledge as possible. And when I say that, I mean basically if you come in, if you're just new to DeFi, you literally look at the API and then you get into the pool, right? And that's all that happens. So there's that. And then if you want to think about trying to optimize your yield, or if you want to get into a flywheel type of strategy where you can take profit optimally, you can do that as well. The Volta has some sophisticated mechanics that you can leverage in order to try and optimize your yield as well. So that's the first part of the question. Now the second part of the question with regards to previous experience as well as failures and successes. Like I said, one of the first successes that we did have back in Ames DeFi is that we did take a tomb fork that was around 10 cents and get it back to peg. And then we did have a good, nice little period of printing before, obviously, the tomb fork model. I think by now everybody knows that it's not fully collateralized. So it really depends on if everybody plays. There's a very good tree element to the tomb fork model, I would say, where if everybody plays the game correctly, then it stays at peg and everybody can continue printing. But the thing is that not everybody does that, right? Some people are just going to dump. So there was that as well. And then we fell back down because of the UST situation. So I guess this one, we can talk about this a little bit. We were originally, Ames DeFi was originally pegged to UST back in the day. And then, so we got back to peg, and then UST crashed, right? So UST became like a not stable coin at all whatsoever. Then what we did is we pivoted to peg to BUSD, and then we got back to peg again. Then our share price mooned, like I think it was like 15x or something like that in a short amount of time. So we had that. Those are some of the successes that we had. We also have a rebaser project. In the past, we worked on a rebaser project called Alto, and that also went for parabolic at one point in time, and we had a long period of where people made a lot of money from our protocol. So with regards to those two, DeFi, there is a strategic pivot going on. I won't talk too much about both of those protocols, but there's a strategic pivot going on to combine them and then move it to a play to earn model. So that's also quite interesting. I think this can be another AMA about all of that. So yeah, that's the experience and what we're trying to bring over to VERTEK. I think one of the best things that we have learned is that not to take things too quickly. Right. If things come out very, very fast, what happens is usually there may be a bug or feature that kind of not just annoys us but also the investors, right? Why is this thing wrong or something like that. So try not taking things too quickly is one thing. We have to be fast but not hasty. And then the second thing is the testing on testnet is also a very important thing. Then the third thing would be, I guess, managing the community narrative well. people need to know what's coming and what they can expect. And I think we're getting a lot better with that, with our especially with our engagement with the community and announcements and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that you're talking about community management, because I have for some time now said that that's absolutely key. And I'm noticing that this space is slowly starting to recognize that the community is in of itself a business and needs to be managed as such. And as we talk about communities, one of the things that you communicate in your white paper is that your white paper is a living document, which I like. I love the fact that I was met with that when I first started reading it, because it means that there are going to be changes made, and that you guys are always going to be updating it and pulling things out, putting things in. You know, you admit and can say that you guys might be prone to some errors and there's going to be some administrative changes. But what you also go on to say is that the information that you present, it might not be interpreted as a service or a commitment between stakeholders. So what is your commitment? What is your commitment to the people that you bring on in terms of your protocols? And what are the commitments to the users? What do you guys say, this is what we're committing to do for you? Other than obviously the aggregation of everything in one large hub within the space.
So I think the commitment for team-wise, and this can be on a slightly more personal level, I believe, is we are committed to the success of the project, as well as building out something that will be valuable, not just for us but also for communities. And I would say this also for other developers, right? Because the nice thing about, and the scalability, I didn't mention this before, but the nice thing about DEX, about the VERTEK DEX, is the scalability. And because of the technology that is it's wrapped in, it allows developers to manage liquidity in a very, very different way than they traditionally would on a Uniswap fork. So I mean, that's the reason why you see certain protocols gain a lot of popularity very fast, like the OXDAO and the Solid Sex and all that, is because they leverage the Balancer V2 tech in order to optimize yield. So that's something that to take keep in mind as well when we have this. When we talk about commitment to community, it's also commitment to the space itself, and other developers can leverage our technology in order to make their protocols better.
Great, and I guess that's also something that's very good for protocols, that hear that you are committed to their success as much as they might be committed to their success, which means you're always going to be on hand to help. I can see some questions coming in terms of doxing, and yes, you did mention that there is a video in which you were live, and I recall some people getting a little frustrated that your pictures were not straight. Did you straighten them up for those wondering?
Yeah, I have straightened them up. That wall that they're on is actually a one on a fake, like a fake wall, meaning it was built after the fact of the building. So
right.
So yeah. Sometimes it moves a little bit, and the pictures get out of line. But yeah, they're in line now. They're in line.
I just like the fact that people picked up on it and couldn't unsee it once it had been pointed out. Right, it's one of those things. All right, so let's talk about what you guys have, where people can earn money, and let's start where you think it's the best place and the best entry point. You've already mentioned it. Do you want to kind of mention it one more time and just expand on why you think that's the best entry point to really unlock, all of the power of what you guys have built?
Yes, definitely. So that would be the Volta. A simple explanation of the Volta is basically lock staking. So a lot of centralized exchanges actually have this also, and a lot of different DeFi protocols use this model as well, which is the lock staking. So what lock staking does is it helps you maintain a good cliff or a good depth for your liquidity over longer periods of time, because investors lock up their liquidity tokens. Now, in our case, you do lock liquidity instead of single tokens. I know a lot of projects out there do lock single tokens, which is sometimes may not be so beneficial for the protocol, depending on the mechanics and etc. But for a DEX, definitely what you want to do is you want to get as much liquidity locked up in the protocol as possible. So the Volta, basically, you don't have to lock up any other liquidity. It's just the main pool, which is VERTEK BNB. So the DEX token is VRTK. And VRTK BNB is the LP token that you'll use to lock in the Volta. And then when you do that, like I said earlier, you do get VVERTEK. And with VERTEK, you can do anything, basically. You can do your voting, you can direct your emissions, you can get up to 2.5 yield boost. I didn't talk about this before, but yeah, if the bigger your Volta position, the higher your yield is on the rest of the DEX. So, for example, if you have like about 2 to 3% of the of VERTEK, of all VERTEK in circulation, that's about a 2.2 it can go up to 2.5x boost on farming other core pools. So everybody understands what liquidity provision is already. The DEX obviously has that. If you provide liquidity to any of the core pools, and then you also have a VERTEK position, you can get up to a 2.5x boost. So that's what that means. And then with your VERTEK, obviously you can do your voting to direct emissions. So think about this. You get into the Volta, right? You have a little bit of VERTEK or enough VERTEK to give you a good yield boost. So you're earning a yield boost on, let's say, the blue chip pool, right? Because you like the blue chip pool. So you vote for the blue chip pool. The blue chip pool's emissions go up, so you get more yield. And then that pool is also bribed, which means you can capture rewards through voting for it. So you actually are incentivized to bribe to vote for certain pools. And like I said, we can look back to this being beneficial for developers as well. If as a protocol or project, if you're listed on the DEX and you have your own VERTEK position, then and you can add bribes. Like I said, you can add bribes decentrally, meaning it doesn't have to be through us. You can just add it by yourself as long as the token is whitelisted. What I mean by token whitelisted means it's not malicious. It's been, it's a token that everybody knows. People don't. It's not a token that is gonna like run some random reentrancy or approval hack on anybody's wallet. So that's a whitelisted token. So if you're a project, you can put up some tokens to as bribes for your own pool, and then people who are in the voters or people who are in the Volta, they will vote for your pool, give it more emissions, which means it will build its liquidity, and at the same time reward the VERTEK holders. So bribing has become quite a big deal recently, especially with some of the newer DEXs that are coming around. Voting for emissions is gaining a little bit more popularity recently, so that's it's good to know. Why do you think that is? I think it's because you have to incentivize people somehow to lock their tokens, and bribing is a good thing because the utility that is attached to lock-in tokens is the voting, right? You can vote for emissions and you can get your 2.5 yield boost. And then on top of that, you can also capture rewards that are more short-term rather than long-term. Bribes are quite short-term, right? You vote for it, at the end of the epoch, you get it every week. But then the longer-term, the longer-term type rewards would be the 2.5x yield boost, which is what you want to do when let's say, for example, you got $1 million position in the stable coin pool. Then you just vote for that pool, you just farm it slowly. It's stable, it's there. It's the price, you don't have to worry about price at all. And then if you're in the blue chip pool and you want to, let's say you had a good entry for Bitcoin, ETH and all that, and you got into the pool, you can earn yield on your blue chips through the DEX emissions without having to sell your Bitcoin or your ETH. So, yeah.
So I like that you say it's an incentivized method in order to make sure that people will lock in for a longer period of time. I think people are starting to realize that longer lock-in periods are where the real money can be made. And a lot of the questions that you're going to get is that people kind of go for short-term gains or only look at short-term gains and are reluctant to consider those long-term rewards. So, are you going to move towards perhaps really trying to educate the people that come through your DEX that you're already doing it with some of the things that you have in place with the bribes, for example, and the voting? But how will you educate people and really simplify what you guys are doing to such an extent that anybody that comes across you is going to know immediately, right, actually, the long-term lockup is where I should be, because ultimately that's where I'm going to make the most benefit?
So for this, I would say we have actually answered this question quite a few times in multiple places, and I like to answer it because it's quite simple, right? It's not just the amount you lock up. Everybody has different risk appetites as far as capital goes, so it doesn't matter how much you have, but everybody has the option to lock longer. So the longer you lock, the more VERTEK you get. And then, like I mentioned earlier, VERTEK is where all the benefits are that are attached to, or most of the benefits that you can get on VERTEK are through the VERTEK system. So there's that. Yeah, that would be my answer. It's most people. Some people, you may not be able to afford a position as big as someone else, but you can definitely afford the time, same as them. Both of you are playing on the same time field.
Right, and will you perhaps have run-through videos that explains all of this kind of in bite-sized chunks for those people that might want to watch it? I mean, is that part of the plan as you build out, that the education point of what you are doing starts to grow also?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, maybe KEULE can talk. KEULE can talk a little bit about this. He has been brushing up on his video skills and his and video editing skills, as well as we launched a YouTube recently, and we want to try and get as many how-to videos or very simple walkthroughs and explanatory videos as we can on that platform, so that people can kind of go through. White papers are nice, but not everybody will read the whole thing, right? So videos are a lot better, and videos are a lot better and a lot more
agreed.
Interactive.
And a lot of people in this space learn far better from watching videos than they do reading complex papers. So I think there's a real strength in doing walkthrough videos, and that certainly allows people to, when they are in bite-sized chunks, allows people to digest quite difficult information at times far easier, and will encourage them to, go through you guys as a result, I think.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah,
so one of the other questions, go after you.
What we are planning to do is to really break down the white paper in easy, understandable chunks. Like, for example, that you also get your cut of the dividends, for example, or how the vault itself is working, and how you can use this as leverage to swap big amounts and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Now, one of the selling points, I guess, for protocols is that they can get a VERTEK position, and the larger their position, the more sway they have. To my mind, there are going to be pros and cons. Let's talk about the cons first, so that you guys can finish on what the pros are and why they outweigh those cons. Is there not a danger that this kind of circles back away from decentralized into a more centralized format, where simply those with the biggest bags and those with the largest amount of money are always going to be able to gazump the little guy and push the little guy out of the way, because they just have the spending power that the smaller protocols don't have?
Okay. So we can talk about this a little bit. This is a very interesting point, because the OG, who is Balancer, they actually went through this problem. I'll share with you a little story. Everybody knows FTX right now, right? So yes. FTX actually did that to them at the beginning, when they were still not as big as they are right now. So when Bell first had the V system and all that, FTX came in with like some massive position and manipulated the whole thing up the wazoo until they managed to mint like a whole bunch of tokens and stuff just by, like, I wouldn't say exploiting, because it wasn't a code exploit. It's more like gaming the system with the power of their money. So they did have that. And it is through that fire that Balancer adjusted and modified the system to the state it is in today, where it is very difficult for even larger bag holders. I mean, there's still a bit of that, where if you have a very large position, obviously you can move the emissions a bit more than somebody who doesn't have. But I think by and large, the way that it's set up now, and it's the system that we are using also now, the way it's set up now is it is a lot more difficult for things like that to happen. So I give you an example. Initially, the voting could be, you could vote for any emission, any pool, anytime, and then revoke your vote, and then re-vote for something else. So what people would what could go on way back in the beginning is that you vote for a pool, get everybody to put everything in that pool, because that's the so-called most incentivized pool, and then at the last minute, at the last second, you switch all your votes to something else, and because you have most of the voting power, another random pool with nobody in it has all the emissions, and then you get into that pool, and then you like farm ridiculous emissions for like 3 hours or something before people realize. So yeah, that obviously can't happen now, because there's a 10-day voting cliff. So once you lock in your vote, 10 days have to pass before you are able to change your vote. So it's things like this that they have implemented and that allow the system to be as decentralized as possible.
Right. So what do you think the greatest strength is then? What is the greatest pro with this voting system and with the VERTEK voting?
I think the greatest strength is the concept of decentralization, right? So if we can go back to what we were talking about before at the top of this interview, which is the whole concept of DeFi is to have the community, right, and everybody decide. The market should drive what the way that the emissions are being emitted, and the way that users are getting rewarded. So if by and large, if the market feels that now is a good time to be in stables and not in other stuff, then the votes would naturally go to the stablecoin pool. And that's what will happen. And then if the market then decides, okay, now we're a little bit risk on, we want to go into more altcoins, then that's what will happen. The market will decide because they are the ones that are doing the voting. So, and this applies to not just big investors, but also small investors, right? I think if the overarching market sentiment is bearish or is stable coins, then it won't just be the larger whales who move into stables, it'll be the smaller guys as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's a reasonable enough pushback, and I like the response. I mean, it's one of those things that is always going to get grumbles, right? And there's always going to be a complexity to any voting system. So, you guys working towards mitigating people being able to game the system and gain as much leverage through unfair means as possible is great. And I know one of the things that you say in your white paper is that you are going to also monitor, for example, your community sentiment and any good suggestions that come up. Is part of that monitoring perhaps also going to be where you believe that votes might go? Will you monitor those? And if there is a community or a protocol that has a particularly large community that is also able to swing votes, is that something you're also going to take a look at? Yes.
So I'll give you a good example. This is a good point to mention. So I'll give you an example. So recently we have found that we have a pool called the alternative stables. Basically, is the three big ones are BUSD, USDT, and USDC, right? Then we have an alternative stablecoin pool, which in our pool it has Frax, DAI, TUSD, and BUSD. So the BUSD is there as a connector. It helps to connect. It helps to form a link to the other stablecoins as well as the rest of the DEX. But the alternative stablecoin pool has had a very high percentage of trading volume versus its TVL. So with that, we can see that our DEX is actually picking up popularity in that area, and we have decided that we're going to reduce the trading fees for that even further, so that we can be the predominant place where people can trade the alternative stables. And so that's an example of what I would say as monitoring the community sentiment as well as the overarching market conditions to see where we're performing well and leverage that. And then the opposite is also true, right? If we see spaces or gaps where it's like, okay, this isn't really performing the way we want to do it, then we can edit that as well. So yeah.
I like that. I like the fact that you'll pivot on the spot if you need to, in order to kind of, the base of what you're doing is giving back to the people that are locked up with you guys, right? That's effectively what correct. You want to do. And in order to do that, you do have to be monitoring things and be prepared to shift in a different direction if you need to. So the fact that you will monitor where there are strengths and perhaps where there need to be further strengths, and you can change your processes based on that is a very good thing, in my opinion.
Thank you, sir.
The bribes work slightly differently, though, right? It isn't about how much you hold, but it's about the percentage by which you put in, which means someone with a mass amount of tokens that wants to vote can't just put a very small percentage of what they want in, but that's a large amount, and be in a better position than someone that wants to put 50% of what they have in. Is that correct? Is that my understanding there, right?
Yeah, I think So the way it works is everybody has a voting power, right? And your voting power is attached to how much VERTEK you use. So if you have a massive position, you can't just use a little bit of your voting power for something and then and then capture like 99% of the rewards. That's unless you have, I don't know, like 60-70% of all VERTEK in circulation, which is almost impossible. I mean, Never say never, but that's not going to happen right now. So if you're a smaller in investor, or if you have a smaller position in VOTA, but you use all your votes on a bribed gauge, it is quite likely that you get quite a good share of the rewards in that gauge. Here's another thing that we can talk about that is continuation of the steps or things that we're trying to implement to prevent gaming the system. So because of the 10-day cliff, let's say a whale wants to capture this. A gauge is bribed with a lot of bribes, and then a whale wants to capture a large portion of that. They can do that, but then they're locked for 10 days, right? So they can't capture the next week's big bribes. If they involve bribes that gauge. So this is a good way also for the smaller investors, or to how do you say, to make it such that not just the people with big VERTEK positions are gaining all of the profit. They do gain when they apply their vote, but then they have to kind of miss an epoch where everybody else can go and get a share of the rewards. You see what I mean?
I do. And was that deliberate? Did you guys always build this out with the mindset of thinking about the little people first and ensuring that there was a fair system in place that would reward them as much as the people that could come in with a lot?
I wouldn't go as far to say it as it's with the mindset of always rewarding the little people first. I would say though that you want to spread out your rewards as much as possible, because if only whales can participate in the system and benefit from it, then you're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 who come in, and then it's no longer beneficial for any more to come in, right? Then they'll just start monopolizing everything, which is not the way. So I would say that you can think of it as more of an effort to maximize the decentralization aspect of the voter, rather than specifically trying to reward smaller positions. So that's not really the angle we go for, even though that's a byproduct of it. I think the overarching philosophy there is that you want to try and maintain the decentralization as much as possible, rather than having a few bag holders who can just move whatever they want anytime they want to anywhere they want.
Good response. I like that. I like that you are not afraid to point out that actually it isn't about just because, and there's nothing wrong with this, and there's a lot of strength in it. And I appreciate protocols that focus on those that have only a small bag, but maybe there is a danger that we can too aggressively go in that direction and only focus on the smaller people and forget that actually whales are what drive the market, and they are just as important for this space as those with smaller bags. So finding that balance between the two is the ideal place to be, right?
Correct. Yep, 100% agree there, man.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so talk to me about what gets given out as a reward. It's the VRTK token. I need to ask about that. I'm going to ask about the price. I'd be remiss if I didn't. So to kind of talk to me about that token and where you see its place in this market.
Okay, so the VRTK emissions, or the VRTK token, is the first step of the rewards that you get for the VOTA, but it's not the only one. So you also get the bribes, which can be any token. It can be in VRTK. It can be, I think this week actually. Sorry, not this week. This most recent epoch. So epochs happen on Thursday to Thursday. So previous Thursday, a whole bunch of Bitcoin, ETH, and stablecoins were also rewarded to VERTEK holders, because last week the bribes did include stablecoins, Bitcoin, and ETH. It was a good time too, because it was pumping. So yeah, it made it made the bribing APR really high that week. I think a lot of people who bribed last week were very, very, very happy with that. So there's that, and then there's also the DEX free dividends. And like I said before, this comes in the form of LP tokens. And because everything has a swap fee, it's DEX fees in everything. So it's not just VRTK. It's also in. It could be BNB USDC, BNB BUSD, all of these other things. It is quite a small amount now, because our trading volume isn't like hundreds of millions of dollars. But eventually, it's been growing. It's definitely been growing. We did start off like sub sub 300k TVL, and then we're I think we're almost double now, more than double now, about 600 plus. The actual TVL is about 1 million plus since because we have a what do you call it? We leveraged a liquidity pools from other places as well. So we have we have a larger stablecoin pool than what is displayed on the DEX. And then also through the staker, you can actually earn other token rewards. So I just give a little bit of insight as to where these rewards come from. So when protocols come on and they register as a core pool and everything, and then we invite them in, obviously we have all the help that we can get that we can give them within reason. We don't build their protocol for them, but we try and help them as much as possible and give them options like I guess I'll give you an example. So recently there's a protocol that said like, okay, we want to we will give up some of our native tokens to the staker where people who own VRTK can earn them. Now, so then we told them, okay, you can do that, or you can actually reward LP tokens. So instead of just giving single tokens, you can also reward LP tokens. That would be a good way to convince people to continue the yield farming path by staking the liquidity tokens on the DEX instead of just selling the single token or whatever it is. So yeah, the good thing about the staker is you earn other token rewards, and it's a good sink for VRTK. So now once you get your VRTK through your emissions, you don't actually have to sell it to earn profit. You can stake it again, earn yield on that, and your underlying position is still there.
So is that part of the process moving forward, that for VRTK you're going to be trying to also think of more things that is going to relieve the sell pressure? Because there are people that are going to check the price, and like I said, I'd be remiss if I didn't comment on the price and comment on the fact that it is down quite a bit, which means you guys must be currently in a position where you're obviously aware you want to mitigate against it. So what kind of things, like you just mentioned, are you also going to do to mitigate against that further sell pressure?
Okay, yeah. So we can talk about this a little bit. This is an interesting point because a lot of people just look at price and they use that as an indicator of performance. But it's not just that; it's also an indicator of rewards versus TVL. So based on our original launch price, which was I think $6 or $7 based on the price of BNB at that point of time. So it's a little bit different now. But at that point of time, the reason why it went for that is because we projected a lot more TVL coming in. However, we didn't reach that TVL. If that TVL had come in, then the rewards would have made sense based on how much TVL that was in. Now, so what happens is when that happens is that the initial few people get a bit too much rewards because you're not spreading out the rewards across larger amount of TVL. Then what happens as TVL grows, then you get the price appreciation because people are coming in. So what happens usually with all DEX tokens is that there's an initial pump, obviously, and then it will come down based on how much the TVL is versus the rewards. So this has happened with pretty much every single DEX that has ever launched. And then as the project grows and as TVL comes in, then the price of the token will go up, which will increase the value of the rewards, which will match the TVL. So as we grow TVL, I fully expect the price of VRTK to continue appreciating. You're right; it did come down since launch, but then it hit a bottom, and then it did rise, and it has been rising ever since. So, yeah. So
people should watch this space, basically, is what you're saying.
That's one. Yeah. Right. So that's one, and then the second thing is the not just watching the space, but understanding the mechanics of rewards versus TVL. Because you got to understand that the DEX tokens are primarily reward tokens, and then secondarily they're utility tokens based on whatever the DEX has in its ecosystem. Right? It's not like it's not like a DeFi project where the token of the DeFi project has other things attached to it. So with reward tokens, you really want to get in when the rewards match the TVL. So the thing about that is that APRs usually come down once it's at that state, but that's also when you get to benefit from your position growing, because as TVL grows, then the price of VRTK also goes up. So your position grows, which means your percentage share of the rewards also goes up. as more people flow in.
Okay, great. So let's move into one of the other things that you have. And you have obviously a bridge, and you have destination gas with that bridge, right? Can you just talk through with people why that is an interesting feature?
Okay, so in most cross-chain bridges, what you do is you pay the gas on the chain that you're bridging from. So if you're bridging from Ethereum to wherever, good luck. That is going to be like $50 trying to bridge gas. And then there's also the cross-chain fee, which is like on multi-chain is like $50, I think, for most stable coins, or for $40 for most stable coins. So if you're moving a $100 position, you're gonna pay $40 to move the 100 position. That's a no bueno, right? So what you have for destination chain, and I actually, or not just I, but I think most people would agree here that most of the on-ramping is on Ethereum first, and then you move it to other chains. So if that is indeed the case with anyone trying to bridge over to PSC or Arbitrum or Polygon or wherever, having to pay gas on the destination chain instead is a very, very good is a very good utility instead of having to pay the nonsensical Ethereum fees.
Yes, I agree, and I think it's a nice touch. And it's small. It sometimes gets a bit overlooked. I've heard in some of the AMAs and videos that it kind of gets discussed, but very quickly gets bypassed. Bridging is something that people are doing increasingly more, and I think having that destination fee is fantastic. So I think that's really well done. I want to talk about the NFT marketplace. Before I do, I want to mention NFTs in general in terms of locked positions and a solution that you came up with for collective finance. And I want to ask if this is something that you are going to be expanding to other protocols that might want to come with you. Now, I'm going to summarize, and you can tell me where I've got it wrong and expand. But effectively, what you've managed to do is take a locked position and make it liquid. Now, I've heard collective finance speak on this quite extensively, and I like the way they describe it, but they always say that it's partially liquid. Now, to my mind, you are fully liquid, but not in individual portions. You're either wholly liquid or wholly not liquid, right?
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by the way in which this has been designed, that you've incorporated locked positions into an NFT. And if I've locked my position up for 180 days and 160 days are still left, but I need my position, I need my money, something's happened. On the secondary marketplace, I'm going to be in a position to sell my 160-day lock to somebody who might want it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a very good description. Without getting too technical with like how the mechanics of it works, that is exactly right. So I mean, the original conceptualization for that and kind of the philosophy that was behind it is that okay, the risk aversion to lock staking is there, is always present, and so we wanted to have that ability for people to be able to liquidate their locked positions in a manner, so this is the important point, in a manner that doesn't tank the price of in collective finance's case, it will be CLF. So because it's all liquid positions, it's all locked liquidity, and then you can transfer it to one to another. They will eventually come and list on our NFT marketplace and all that. So everyone will be able to see the different lock positions that are available to either purchase or sell. So, yeah.
How popular do you guys think this is going to be? Because to me, it's a massive selling point, and I think the fact that solution has been found is huge. I don't think it can be spoken of highly enough, in my opinion. It's one thing that I really, really like. In your opinion, and for both of you, how popular do you guys think it's going to be, and how much of a strength is it for what you guys have built out?
I think the strength of that lock position being able to be transferred from one person to another is huge. It's like you said, it's you don't really like to use the word revolutionary, but that's definitely something revolutionary that Collectify is doing. So and we are happy to host them and have that have that ecosystem integrated with our DEX. So yeah.
I don't like to use the word revolutionary unless it's warranted. And this would get me very close to using that word because it's not something that I've heard of before. And when, yeah, it took me a few goes of reading and understanding and listening to really understand what collective finance were trying to explain. And through no fault of their own, it is just so fascinating that it really took me some time to understand it. And now that I do, I think it's very exciting. And I think obviously it's going to be a massive selling point for any protocol that wants to come on with you guys, right? I mean, you must already have people reaching out for this.
Yeah, definitely. We've had a couple of conversations with different projects about how that will be implemented. I believe there is a concept of being able to transfer a locked stake that has been tried before. It just didn't really work out well. I can't remember the name of the protocol, but essentially you transfer your stake by paying some. It's not gas. It's you pay a fee in order to transfer your stake to another wallet or something, but it's all handled by internally in the smart contract. So it's not the same as having it be an NFT and then recorded data, which you can then flip on the marketplace, and then you have that whole secondary market where people will say, okay, look at this lock. It's a 180-day lock, and it's a lot of liquidity inside, but it's unlocking in 3 days. I'm going to pay a lot of money for this.
Right. So, and it's what NFTs were originally designed for. I don't want to throw shade at anybody that can create beautiful NFT artwork, but let's face it, a picture of a monkey was not what it was designed for. It was designed for this very purpose, right? So it's great that NFTs are starting to become utilities again, and people are finding unique ways like this to really use them. I heard you discuss perpetuals, and one of the things that was brought to you is, do you think it's responsible for a 200x leverage? And your pushback was interesting in that you said people have an appetite for it. It's available on centralized exchanges already, so therefore, why on earth should it not be available on a decentralized exchange? And I kind of agreed and didn't agree. One of the reasons I wouldn't agree is because obviously there's no KYC here, so things can go very badly wrong. It's a strength of this space also, and we will talk about the fiat on off-ramp, no KYC. What are you going to do to mitigate against the risk of someone falling into the trap of not understanding what they're doing and using leverage that they shouldn't and have no business using without taking away from the decentralized ethos that you have?
Okay, so we can talk about this a little bit. This is a good question and a good point. I think this again goes back to education. In the perpetuals platform itself, there's going to be a whole bunch of like tool tips and what this is. If you click this button, you're going to be, you can either do very well or get wrecked, and all of that stuff. And then also there has to be like kind of a guide and a disclaimer where. Especially for the 200x leverage, obviously, that this is very dangerous. But I think a lot of people in DeFi already understand this, and I already understand that the risks that come with not just 200x leverage, but let's say if you want to buy a moonshot coin or something, it's all risk. The whole thing is risk. So I don't think there's really any way to mitigate that to a safe point without in the DeFi space without constricting what users can do with their own money. If that makes sense, you see what I'm saying?
It makes entire sense, and it's a perfectly reasonable pushback. It's perfectly reasonable to say, well, we don't want to restrict what people do with their money, and if people fall into an unfortunate trap of doing something that they shouldn't have been doing, then there is an element of self-responsibility that has to be taken, and I wholeheartedly agree. I'm really just probing to see what your mindset is in terms of whether or not you guys are going to try and think of innovative ways to encourage people to not do things they shouldn't be doing, not to stop people from, not doing it if they really, really want to, but just to kind of guide those that might not have the knowledge for it away from something that is so highly risky.
Yeah. So again, goes back to education, and I like to add a point to that as well. We, in this respect, leverage the community actually. So we do have a specific channel in the Discord which you can enter if you have a VERTEK position. It doesn't have to be a big one. I think it's just 10 VERTEK at this point, so it's very little. If you get in and you're in that chat, we have a few very cool community members who post daily technical analysis and stuff like that, and a lot of strong traders who definitely will be using the Petros platform. And through there, you'll be able to ask people, what's a good trade to make, or what's everybody doing, and learn from the community itself. So I think that's a good point. Another good thing that I think DeFi protocols should do a little bit more, which is leverage the talent that is spread across the community in order to lift up the community, overall, rather than have it be a top down kind of thing.
Yeah, and I like that you say that, and I like that the focus there is on the community also, because there are some very, very smart people that hang around in these spaces.
That's very true.
And
in fact, I'd like to add another point.
Please do.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No,
I'd like to add
it's your space. Go for it.
Okay, so here's another very cool additional point. Actually, so our main dev manpower comes from our lead dev who is Briz. He's not here today, obviously, because he's always working. But the community itself we've discovered people who know how to code and who are interested in helping out the protocol and everything. And our repo is all public. So all our code is all public. So anybody with technical knowledge or dev knowledge can go in there and not just check for the security things, right? But also say, okay, I think I know how to solve this bug, or I know how to solve this or tweak this here and there. So here's my solution for it, and they can make a pull request on the repo, and then Briz will kind of like check it out, okay, and then like thank you, and then obviously people who do this get rewarded for it, and then it's through that we've actually found a lot of new devs who are part of our community, and we brought them on, and they kind of help out here and there. So this is another example of leveraging the talent that is spread across the community in order to bring up the project.
Great. And are you going to perhaps have some days where you might put out a bit of a competition for people, whereby people can come in and maybe try and find a deliberate bug that you guys put in, or maybe try and build something in a certain space of time, and then consider expanding your team with those? Or is it just going to be something that you look to do organically?
Well, it's organic. We do this organically. I don't think we want to force people to do it that way, because what you get then is then you have a few people who just come in. Okay, so we've experienced this a little bit before in the past, where we try to reward people for doing something beneficial, and then if they don't win, then they get really pissed off, and then they start as either fudding or doing some other random stuff that is not good for the community. So we've taken an organic approach to this, and we naturally have onboarded more and more devs as time goes by. So that's really, I like that about our community. Actually, it's quite a strong one, even though it's quite small at the moment. But yeah.
Talk to me about your fees.
Okay, trading fees. Okay, so
please do. Yeah.
The nice thing about the Balancer V2 tag is that you can have different swap fees. So everybody knows what swap fees is, right? When you swap from one token to another, you got to pay a small fee. On PancakeSwap, it's basically just a flat 0.25 on everything. They recently integrated some stable swap thing because they had a partner. So they were able to change their swap fees for specifically one or two pools. But for us, you can have dynamic fees, which is each different pool can have different fees. And right now, our stablecoin fees are the lowest in the space at the moment, at 0.02, and we're changing it to 0.01. So 0.01 basically means you just take no slippage when you swap stablecoins for stablecoins, especially since the pool itself uses stable math, which is a different swapping calculation for stable to stablecoin, which allows for a larger, huge trades without incurring price impact and slippage. So there's the 0.01 fee on the stablecoins, and then for the rest it varies. It varies a lot. I think the highest is 1%. That will be on the on some of the VRTK pools, and then also for different protocols that come in. Let's say you have a protocol who comes in who wants to have a higher fee on their token because that's part of the mechanic of their project or whatever it is. You can do that on VERTEK instead of being bound to the 0.25% that PancakeSwap enforces, or other Uniswap folks will enforce on you. And then obviously they have no qualms about selling a token when every once in a while once they take that 0.25%. But for VERTEK, obviously we can have some kind of partnership there going with the project and say, okay, we'll feed back these tokens to the not just the Volta holders but back to the treasury of that project, and then they can in turn provide liquidity for us in different pools or get into the Volta. So yeah.
Great. And what allows you to keep it so low? What's the main feature do you think that you guys have got that allows you to keep it? I mean, 0.01 is particularly low, right? And at the moment, it's one of those things which is a race to get the lowest fees. And this is one of the lowest I've heard of.
Yeah, I think okay, so there's that competitive element where there's a whole bunch of DEXs out there, and people who are swapping tokens always try and look for the lowest fees, especially for higher, larger volume trades. So if you have a large position that you want to convert from one token to another, you're going to try and look for the lowest fees, and then so it's particularly beneficial for us to kind of watch the market and see where DEXs are going with fees. Now, like I did mention just before, the Uniswap Fox and all of those kinds don't have the ability to change their fees. Ours can be changed actually. So, like I just mentioned, we were changing from 0.02 back down to 0.01, and then we can adjust the rest as well as depending on what the other DEXs are doing. So we can remain competitive in that sense. That's one. Second thing is also we can adapt to the needs of different projects that come on as core pools.
I like that also. To be able to adapt to the needs of different projects is key. And talking about projects, the early bird catches the worm, as it were. So, what are you guys going to be putting in place to really encourage projects, protocols to come to you first? Have you got a plan set out that's going to really drive that traffic to you? And secondary to that is, in your guys' opinion, how reliant is your success of onboarding these protocols to what you guys are doing now?
Okay, so there's actually I won't answer this in a very long fashion. I think there's a very simple answer to this, which is TVL is TVL and liquidity is liquidity. In the end, a DEX is the first and primary goal of a DEX is to have that is to grow the liquidity. So definitely any form of projects or liquidity that will come to VERTEK is a very beneficial thing. I think that where we outcompete a lot of let's say legacy DEXs is that we have that personal touch where we can interact with the protocols on a one-on-one basis, whereas, for example, in PancakeSwap or some of the other Uniswap Fox, it's going to be a whole year or so before they even give you reply or email, and so you won't be able to do much with them. But
okay,
yeah.
And so, in your opinion, if a particular large protocol doesn't do particularly well, or for whatever reason goes down in flames, do you see it having much, if any, of an impact on you?
If you're talking about like the FTX situation, well, I guess we can say a meme here. VERTEK has no exposure to SVB Bank as well as or but apart from that, I think the really cool part about DeFi in particular is that like we said, we don't have any ties to the CeFi, and I guess one of the things that could happen would be some massive black swan event, like I don't know, like the other day, right? USDC DPEG or something, or if USDC goes all the way down. So the nice thing about that, or let's look on the bright side on that. We can just eliminate the pools for USDC. People will withdraw their position, and then we'll make a new pool with not USDC in it. So that's a pretty quick pivot that we can make depending on what happens in the market. I would say this though, black swan events, some of the larger ones do affect everything in DeFi. So it's more a question of how easily you can adapt to it if it happens, rather than how do you prevent it. Because the nature of black swan events is as the name suggests, right? You can't really predict that it's going to happen. But I think for VERTEK in particular, the nice thing is that we can move pools out of the core and then have another core pool made that is not together with the token that is burning in flames.
Right. Great answer. And I think it's always important to ask, one of the questions I sometimes ask is, where do you think your single largest point of failure is? And I think if you're saying black swan events are maybe the biggest thing that you need to consider, but you can pivot as and when these things happen, I think that's a real strength for you guys, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's just agree with that, brother.
One of the things that is in your white paper is that tokens have to be whitelisted in order to be able to be in with the bribes. Is that right?
Yes, correct. So this is another interesting security feature that was added by us because we foresaw that for bribes. There are ways to kind of add a random token before this, like before we changed, not changed it, but if we didn't set it up this way, let's say a random person can add a random shitcoin to the bribes, and then create a secret liquidity somewhere on PCS or something that will make the price super high, right? And then if it's a malicious token, people want to sell it, they go and approve the token, then they get all their money stolen, right? So this is the whole idea behind the whitelist, is that we want to keep somewhat the tokens that are given out as rewards. It's the same way for the gauges, by the way. The gauges would be the liquidity pools. So like I did mention earlier, you can have up to 8 tokens as rewards.
Yeah, I was about to circle to that also. So yeah, we'll circle to that in a second. But go on, if you want to circle to it now, we can.
Yeah, sure. So I'll continue the trajectory of this answer then, which is the whitelisting of the tokens definitely is for both the gauges as well as the bribes. And a big reason for that is security, actually, is because you don't want people to just randomly add bad tokens to your gauges and your or to like deceive investors who might ape into those rewards, thinking that the rewards are good, and then when they try to go trade the token, they get hacked or something. So that's definitely something that has to be gate kept a bit. We did identify that way back then when we first built the thing, but that's something we did implement.
Great. Now, as you said, we can get in a pool exposure to up to 8 tokens. There are a fair few more people in the audience listening now than right at the beginning. So do you just want to run through what that means for people and why you guys believe this has far more benefit than a simple 50-50 one-on-one split?
Yeah, sure. So in most liquidity pools, it uses the N variant thing that Vitalik Buterin came up with, right? Which is the liquidity pool. You get 1 versus 1, and then you it's 50% one token, 50% the other token, and then that's how price is controlled, right? Or that's how price changes if you swap between the pool. But for Binance V2 tech, which is the tech that we use, and we can have up to 8 tokens in one pool, and then you can have different ratios for the pools for the tokens. So you can have 10% one token, 10% Bitcoin, 20% ETH, 30% VERTK, 40% stablecoin, maybe another 10% of Shiba Inu or something. So that can all happen on the VERTEK DEX. And I would say this, one of the ways that you can think about a liquidity pool like that is that it's actually a self-rebalancing portfolio of yours. What I mean by that, so simple TLDR explanation would be, let's say you want to hold Bitcoin, ETH, and BNB, but you don't just want to have it do nothing in your wallet. Now you have Bitcoin, ETH, BNB, you put it in the liquidity pool, it auto rebalances, so it's 33% all the time, and you're earning yield in it because you're providing liquidity. So you're capturing a little bit of the swap fees as well as the VERTK emissions or whatever the extra tokens are rewarded to that gauge. So that's a good value proposition especially for larger like whales who are risk averse. They want to have a significant portion of their capital in stablecoins or in blue chips, and they don't really want to move it. So, but they don't like the fact that it's doing nothing in their wallet. So on VERTEK, you can just provide liquidity in that manner, maintain the ratio of each to each, and still earn yield on it.
How significant do you think that particular feature is for you guys?
But it's pretty damn significant. I think that's the original reason why the Bouncer and Curve actually gained so much traction in the first place, is because of that ability to have multi-token pools. and then multi-reward pools as well. So the multi-rewards is more for developers. It's nice for investors because sometimes a pool that you're in maybe gets extra rewards, but it's also for developers because developers can come and build on our platform, and then instead of a traditional 50-50 LP where they can only reward one token, on VERTEK they'll be able to reward multiple tokens at a time, and they can control the missions on a weekly basis. So it's I tell you, man, the things you can do with the VERTEK tech that we have is
absolutely
insane.
massive. Let's you explain it in a very calm way, which to me it doesn't really give the gravitas of what you're saying. The fact that people can have exposure in one pool to 8 different tokens is massive, and especially if they're L1 tokens that they're simply holding in their wallet already, waiting for the price to appreciate, and they want to earn a little bit of yield on it. It's absolutely massive.
What you can do is you basically build out one or more hedge funds, and you also earn yield and swap fees on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Quite.
So we can expand on this a little bit. Maybe I'll take 1 minute to expand. So we intellectual exercise for about 1 minute. Let's say it's pretty cool. So let's say you have a whole bunch of Bitcoin, whole bunch of ETH, whole bunch of BNB, right? You think you pick this tree for the market, and you think, okay, this tree are going to go up. I already had a good entry point. What the hell is it doing in my wallet? Doing nothing. You come to VERTEK, you provide liquidity for all for these 3 tokens. There we have a pool actually that is Bitcoin, ETH, and BNB. So you maintain your position because it's self-rebalancing. So you will always be able to get back your tokens in the same ratio that you put them in. Then you earn yield on it, right? By staking staking in the gauge, and then you get VRTK. And then if you are in the Volta as well, you earn up to 2.5 yield boost on that. And you get a whole bunch of different DEX emissions on, DEX fee dividends on it. And then you vote for that pool, so its rewards go up. And then that pool happens to be bribed. So then you also capture the bribing rewards. And then so this is the last part. The gauge token, which is the token that is the receipt token, right? I think everybody knows what receipt token is now. The receipt token for that gauge. If a different protocol or another protocol uses that token as its yield optimizer, you can earn even more yield on it. So an example for this would be OXDAO, where what they did was they took the gauge token. They said, okay, this token, you put it on our platform, you get some yield in whatever token. So there was a whole bunch of people like, why the hell not? I get like 3-4 different layers of yield just by providing liquidity to the DEX and then staking the gauge token somewhere else. So this is another cool thing that developers can do. You can use our gauge receipt tokens to build your platform around as a yield optimizing platform. So it's really cool, bro.
It is, and I like that you keep saying this is what developers can do, because you're not just talking about those people that want to earn with simple investments and who are just holding tokens. You're also thinking about those developers at the same time. So there is a balance in your thought process, from what I can tell, in terms of whom you're thinking about, which I like.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I think that's one of the biggest actually value propositions that set the Balancer V2 tech apart from the Uniswap kind of forks, is that there's so many things that developers can do to produce a yield optimizing protocol that leverages the technology that VERTEK DEX provides.
Right. I'm going to try and twist your arm and get a little bit of alpha out of you in a bit. But one of the things I want to comment on is that you guys have a lot going on. I mean, it is a lot. And with every business, there's always a little bit of fat that can be chopped away to streamline things. Do you guys see where the fat in VERTEK is? And are you guys always looking about where you can start chopping things away? Not just about adding things on, but really streamlining processes, making it easier. Maybe an automated system where people can automatically, put tokens in and have their tokens distributed over the course of a month or 2 months to certain votes without having to manually engage, or something else that you might think of. Is there that mindset with you guys?
Yes. Yeah. So this is an interesting point with the automate, like trying to get automation going on with like let's say voting or whatever. That is like I say again, that can go back to if a project can actually do that. They can actually use look at our repo, build a protocol to actually automatically vote for their own pools. And I think some of that is being produced now as well, or is it the works?
Right.
And then
great.
Yeah, and then for wait, I lost my train of thought. So I think that's yes. We also have planned this auto compounder, which we will release not so soon, but we want to have kind of like a built-in beefy finance to on VERTEK as well. So again, this is like the everything DEX. Let's say you just want to plug and play, just put it and just shove it into the auto compounder. You'll be able to do that as well. Yeah.
Sorry, you dropped out for a second there. Can you repeat that? I got to shove it onto the auto compounder and then I lost you.
Yeah. So let's say you want to just shove it into the auto compounder and not look at it for about 3 months. You will be able to do that too as well on VERTEK eventually. Once we get that auto compounding functionality or feature ready on VERTEK.
Great. Now, with that in mind, we've got a sizable audience, a nice amount of people listening to what you guys have to say. I'm going to try and tease some alpha out of you now. Is there some stuff coming down the pipeline that you haven't discussed at the minute, or that people aren't too aware of that you can discuss with me? And if you say no, I'm going to have this Q&A go on for another 3.5 hours. So the choice is yours.
Okay, sir. Okay, well, no then. Let's go 3.5 hours. I'm not afraid.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. I'm kidding. So okay, let me just say what we just released today actually is a liquidity driver event. So this is a good thing for rather serendipitous timing for everybody here. If you are thinking about getting to VERTEK right now, we are running a liquidity driver event where we will match your position in the Volta. So this is going to be running until the end of March. And what it will be is that there will be 10 winners, and we will match up to a 1K stake in the Volta. You don't have to be a new lock. You can be an existing lock. You just add to the lock. But any lock that is performed between now and the 31st March, if you register your transaction and you win, we will match it. So for example, if you only got in with $100 and you happen to win, then we will match another $100 for your Volta position. So we'll give you that. And then if you do 1,000 or even 5,000, we will match up to 1K. So if you got in for about 5,000 to the Volta and you win, then we will add another 1,000 to that. So this is a nice little liquidity driver event that we want to do now. Yeah.
That's great stuff. And what was the thinking behind that? Is it just that you wanted to kind of give back to the people? Who came up with it?
Well, we came up with it together, but the whole idea is, as the name suggests, is a liquidity driver event. Like I did mention before, the primary, first and foremost, primary objective of the DEX is to deepen liquidity and to thicken it. So I think this is a good way to do it. It's not just incentivization, but it's also to reward people who come in now, and perhaps, for those people who are on the fence, not really sure whether they want to get in or not, now this might be a good way to tip them onto our side of the field. So yeah,
great.
And
go on. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
And as for the alpha,
yes, please.
Very soon. Yes. So if you take a look at our staker right now, you will notice that there are 2 buttons that are disabled right now on each of the cards. So these 2 buttons are stake and unstake NFTs. So that means that very soon there will be an NFT mint coming for our very own VFox collection NFTs that will allow people to use them to boost their rewards in the staker. So that means the staker rewards will, first and foremost, we will increase the rewards of all of the staker pools, and then secondly, the NFT holders will be able to boost their rewards on the staker pool. So this is going to drive a lot more volume into or the NTV onto the staker. It's going to provide a nice place for VRTK to be put in, and
great.
Also, I think on a project level or like a business strategic level, it will allow us to capture an audience that we previously did not have that much access to, which is the NFT crowd. Usually the NFT crowd doesn't give a shit about DeFi, and VERTEK and DEXs and liquidity provision staking. All of this is all DeFi, right? And
right.
So perhaps there may be a bunch of NFT crazy people who are NFT or people who like NFTs who will be introduced to DeFi via VERTEK, and then they'll they can see that the NFTs have instant utility in the form of boosting. So.
And how much are they going to cost, and how long will they boost for? Do they is it a decaying period of time, or are they forever?
Forever. So as long as you have them, you can stake and unstake. So you stake it and you earn boost on that pool. If you unstake, you go to another pool. You stake it in another pool, then you get boost on that pool. So if you're in all the pools, you better have enough NFTs to boost everything there.
Right.
Yeah.
And how much are they going to cost?
Mint price will start about 0.5 BNB for the first half of the collection, and then it will increase to like 0.6, 0.7, 0.8 until it's all minted out.
Right. Great. Thank you. One of the questions before I'm going to ask when marketing, because one of the things everybody always asks is when marketing. And I'm not just going to ask a standard when marketing question, I hope. But before that, as your liquidity gets bigger and bigger, as you mentioned, that is the main aim of what you guys are doing. What are you going to do in order to bring in, are you going to do anything to bring in, I know you have a financial background, but experts to help with the growth of that, how to manage it? What are you guys going to do to ensure that your team is moving with the size by which you might be growing?
Yeah. So again, we leverage the community on this. There are a whole. I tell you this: even if you're not even going to get into VERTEK, right? Just join the Discord and talk to our community. There's a massive wealth of knowledge over there, and we're extremely grateful that for our a lot of our community members, because there are a lot of experts in different things in there, and they come up with brilliant suggestions sometimes, and that's where we can formulate ideas to push the protocol forward in regards to business development as well as marketing. Actually, we've actually got introduced to a lot of marketing avenues via the community, and like for example, connections to different YouTubers and stuff like that. So sometimes they just take forever to get back to you, or they never get back to you. But sometimes somebody's like, "Hey, I got direct line to this guy or something," and we can okay, cool. Right. So yeah, so that's again. Leaning on the community a little bit for these kinds of things is very, very powerful if it's done correctly. And I think we have a good a good connection with our community and good engagement. So that's definitely something that we will use as part of our ammo.
That's a strong answer for anybody who is themselves community based, or for anybody who has gone through a situation whereby they've been invested somewhere and they felt unheard. That's a strong answer for those people, especially that I'm asking about something as serious as managing large amounts of money. And your immediate response is to say, we're going to be asking the community first and foremost. It really speaks to where your minds are at and the fact that their input and opinions are important. And like we've spoken about already, and like you've already said, there are very, very smart people in this space. And you are just going to utilize them, and I think that's clever.
Thank you, sir. And I mean, it kind of happened naturally. Like over the course of time, we just realized there's just some brilliant people in there, especially some of the larger investors, like the whales or what. That's the reason why they have that kind of capital, right? Like they have connections and they have good experience and they're good at what they do. So if you just ask them a couple of questions, and then a lot of people are more than happy actually to kind of explain and give their 2 cents, and that really helps a lot in pushing the protocol forward.
Yeah. Agreed. When are the perpetuals going to launch? That's one of the questions that's going to be leveled at you. It'll be one of the last questions I ask before when marketing. But when is the perpetual? I know we've spoken about it already, but when is it going to launch? Do you have a specific date?
Okay, so today is Tuesday, right? So today is Tuesday. Like I did mention before, the epochs happen on every Thursday. I think it should be available next epoch. So from somewhere between this coming Thursday and next Thursday, it should be up and running. There isn't coding wise, there isn't much left to do. It's more like we want to make sure the integration is seamless, and there's like no weird UX issues where like you can't click a button or anything. So that's about it. But the whole code base is like ready to go.
Great. For anybody confused as to why you might have said Tuesday, it's just the time zone that you're sitting in. For us, it's Monday.
Yeah.
So just put it back a day. No, that's fine. That's absolutely right. I can just imagine some people sitting there super confused as to why they're now thinking, like, did I lose a day? What happened? Great stuff. Okay, so when marketing, that's the question I'm going to ask. I know that everybody is always trying to find some kind of innovative way to get the marketing going. Sometimes, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Are you going to go down the traditional route? Like you've mentioned YouTubers, you've mentioned, reaching out to these content creators, and for anybody content creator listening, don't take ages to respond. If they reach out, get back to them quickly, I suppose. Other than that, do you guys have any avenues that you feel might be unique that you're going to be taking, or is it going to be the traditional route and organic growth?
Yes, so thank you for saying that actually about like getting back to us quickly. I really would appreciate it if for content creators to do that. Okay, but anyway, so it's going to be a two-pronged approach for marketing, and we talked about this in depth before amongst the team as well as a little bit with some of our private investors, which are the VERTEK holders. We did talk about this a little bit. So the whole idea with marketing here is to do part of the traditional, which is like you got the YouTubers, and then obviously these AMA rounds, like these ones are very, very nice, although sometimes they are quite exhausting, like you did point out in the beginning. And I do prepare for them, by the way. Like I have notes and I understand like who you've done AMAs with before and all that, so I do prepare for them. So some of these AMAs are quite they take up more time than just the AMA itself for myself, and sometimes it gets really.
I hear you. It's the same for us. I put in an extensive amount of research for these Q&A, so I feel you, my man.
Yeah. So yeah, that's okay. So there's that. The AMAs are important because I do believe that the DeFi world is shifting a little bit more now from look at this token, buy it and earn money, to who are the people or who are the team who's behind this. I want to hear the voice. I want to see the face. I want to all that kind of thing. So that's why I think AMAs are a lot more valuable than simply shilling or a pin post or something like that. In the past, it was like that, right? Like about 7 months ago, you just randomly pin post in some random Telegram group, and so that everybody's going to ape in. But now it's a bit different. People are starting to realize that security is a bit more important. There's also once you get into bear market territory, people get a lot more risk averse and they want to know more about the project. And I think also, and this goes back again to education, people are in general a little bit more aware about what the DeFi space is about. So they do want to know, or they want to feel that the people who are running the project that they want to invest in understand the space as well, and kind of have a philosophy that is somewhat aligned with their own. Okay, so there's that. So that's the AMA thing. And then I actually think, we actually think that Twitter now is a very, very powerful platform to leverage in terms of marketing, because it seems that people are flowing more into Twitter rather than going to YouTube to get their information about DeFi projects as to or to decide what projects they want to invest into. YouTube is more about knowledge now, as in more about learning and knowledge now, rather than alpha. Twitter now is all alpha. So in the past, Twitter was just a whole bunch of bots and shilling. Now, because of the way that Elon Musk has been changing the algorithm and shit, it's been more a space where people can find out new information or interesting information about new projects or projects that have that are good. So I think we want to leverage Twitter a little bit more, and we're going to get more exposure on Twitter. And also recently, Binance Live has come out and has got a lot of people just flooding into the platform trying. There's a lot of traffic going through Binance Live. So we're going to be starting to do AMAs there as well, and perhaps capture a good portion of that audience to bring them over to VERTEK.
Great. I like that you are mentioning things that you're noticing are on the up and coming, rather than kind of looking towards the old ways. And in terms of your comments on Q&As, I agree. I think conversations like this, as exhausting as they are, and they can be, because there's so much research, like you touched on, that goes into before you even speak to someone, and then you sit down for an hour or 2 hour conversation, and you've got to go through all of the finer details and make it digestible to people that might not know the ins and outs of what we're talking about. But I think there's a lot of power in having conversations like these, where you can ask tough questions. You and I can sit and have a conversation, and not tough questions designed to tear you down or bring you down, but questions designed to allow you to give an answer to the best of your ability that really showcases A, you know what you're talking about, and B, what you guys are building out. And I hope that these things are going to get more and more popular, because I think they're a very, very powerful tool for anybody wanting to learn about a project.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Agree with that, man. 100%.
Great stuff. I mean, is there anything that I haven't covered that you wish I had covered at this point?
Well, man, it's been a long conversation, so I don't think we can cover everything in one shot. So I might do a repeat with you actually in the near future, or near to medium future. Perhaps we could try. Yeah, perhaps you could try like Twitter Spaces or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But I think you cover a lot of the important points, and actually, I did prepare quite a bit of what I wanted to say, and you did manage to touch on a lot of it. So I think I really appreciate the research that you did, man.
I appreciate you. Before we go, the last word's going to go to you guys. KEULE, maybe I'll ask you first, because I haven't heard you speak very much.
Yeah.
It's going to be a personal question, just in terms of what you're most excited about. Is there a particular point with VERTEK that you are excited to get to from a personal standpoint? And when you get there, you're going to allow yourself to have a mini celebration before you get back to the grind and start building out again.
I think for me it's every day enjoyable, because I have a quite curious mind, and being in VERTEK as core member challenges me every day, and also have the opportunity to build out my skill set. Like, for example, now with YouTube, with video editing, photo editing, and things like that. So that's actually the way itself is what excites me the most. The journey.
I like that answer. Okay, so you're enjoying the process, which is great.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love what I'm doing at the moment, and I enjoy the process very much. So I hear you on that, and I like that response. Unfortunately for MP, you've taken that response away from him now, so he's not allowed to say the same thing. So what are you most looking forward to? Is there any one thing in particular that you have on the horizon that you're looking at?
Yeah. So okay. So I do also enjoy the process, of course, and it's very challenging, and it keeps you alive. I think there is also something to be said about having tangible goals that everybody can kind of work towards. We do have that internally we do circulate that internally with the team, and one of the ones that we are going for in the short to medium term here is getting all of the features that were not just community suggested, but also laid out as part of the roadmap. We want to get that all done. So it's like then we can finally say like VERTEK is a finished product, right? Right now it's all of the core functionality is there, and there's a lot of core functionality, and there's obviously the cross-chain bridge and all that. But I think once the NFT marketplace comes out with the perpetuals and the VFox collection, which will which will allow NFT staking on the staker itself. By the way, the staker was also a feature that we just released, I believe, a couple of days ago. So you can see that we're building out, and once the NFT marketplace plus the perpetuals come out, I think VERTEK DEX will be more or less complete for the short to medium time as far as features go, and then that will be a good point where we can celebrate a little bit that our product is complete, and then of course we will go ahead and go about improving it and making it better, and then adding more features as we go along.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. Listen, I'm going to wind it down now because we have been going for a long time, and I know you're not feeling very well. Before I go, I'm just looking at your NFTs, and these things are ridiculously cool. Thank you for dropping them in. They look absolutely great. In particular, that gold one at the top. I like that fox very much. I think you guys have some very, very interesting things coming along, and I almost like the fact that I learned about one of the most exciting features to me through a protocol that is now with you, not through you guys direct, but through someone else. They got me onto it, and it forced me to then kind of look a little deeper into what you guys are doing. And I think there are exciting things coming. So I thank you both. I look forward to absolutely having another conversation at some point in the future. And yeah, let's figure something out in terms of incorporating Twitter Spaces, YouTube. Maybe we'll just do something like a mass broadcast and bring as many people in as we can.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I'm totally up for that. It will be an exciting journey, and I think there's a lot of things to kind of show off about VERTEK, right? And having different platforms, having different platforms to do it on is definitely something we're trying to go for. So, and I thank you very much, man.
Thank you, and I appreciate both of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, guys. You guys have a good day.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much for lending us your ears. I hope to see you soon in the VERTEK Discord.